Oceangate, Stockton Rush, Narcissist, Part 4. We've heard from people who knew Stockton Rush when he was at university, but now let us examine Rush's attitudes towards safety. Titan operated in international waters and didn't carry passengers from a port. Therefore, it was not subject to safety regulations. The vessel was not certified as seaworthy by any regulatory agency or third-party organisation. Reporter David Pogue, we'll be hearing more from him later as well, who completed the expedition in 2022 as part of a CBS News Sunday morning feature, said that all passengers who enter Titan sign a waiver confirming their knowledge that it is an experimental vessel that has not been approved of or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. What might this mean? Is this back covering and blame shifting on the part of Stockton Rush? Or is it him being honest and pointing out to people, this is experimental, therefore there are risks associated with it? Or is it evidence that demonstrates that you ought not to have such a waiver in place in the first place? Rather, should you not have a vessel that's entirely safe or far safer than the one that's described in the way that this waiver has been worded? If so, might that point to a reckless attitude, an absence of emotional empathy, and poor accountability? Television producer Mike Rice, who also completed the expedition, said the waiver mentioned death 3 times on page 1. A 2019 article published in Smithsonian magazine referred to Rush as a daredevil inventor. In the article, Rush is described as having said, the U.S. Passenger Vessel Safety Act of 1993 needlessly prioritized passenger safety over commercial innovation. In a 2022 interview, Rush told CBS News, at some point, safety just is pure waste. I mean, if you just want to be safe, don't get out of bed, don't get in your car, don't do anything. Rush said in a 2021 interview, I've broken some rules to make Titan. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. The carbon fibre and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did. Is this arrogance, grandiosity, a flagrant disregard for the safety of others? A man who is focused on his own delusion that he broke the rules with logic and good engineering, that he justifies this failure to account for himself? Given the repeated instances of dismissing safety and doing so in such a blatant and brazen fashion, certainly starts to show some narcissistic indicators. It's one thing to break the rules, but it's another thing to keep admitting to it and then dismiss the rule breaking as okay because I did this with logic and good engineering. Oceangate claimed that Titan was the only crewed submersible that used RTM, an integrated real-time health monitoring system. The proprietary system, patented by Rush, employed acoustic sensors and strain gauges at the pressure boundary to analyze the effects of increasing pressure as the watercraft ventured deeper into the ocean, and to monitor the hull's integrity in real time. This supposedly would function to give early warnings of problems and allow enough time to abort the descent and return to the surface. In 2018, Oceangate's Director of Marine Operations, David Lockridge, composed a report documenting safety concerns he had about Titan. In court documents, Lockridge said that he had urged the company to have Titan assessed and certified by an agency, but Oceangate had declined to do so, citing an unwillingness to pay. Is this failure to pay demonstrative of an absence of emotional empathy and a sense of entitlement? Does it show a flagrant disregard for safety concerns, showing an absence of accountability and an absence of emotional empathy? Lockridge also said that the transport viewport on its forward end was only certified to reach a depth of 1,300 metres, only a third of the depth required to reach the Titanic. Lockridge was also concerned that Oceangate would not perform non-destructive testing on the vessel's hull before undertaking crewed dives, and alleged that he was repeatedly told that no scan of the hull or bond line could be done to check the delimitations, porosity, and voids of sufficient adhesion of the glue being used due to the thickness of the skull. Are these legitimate concerns that are being dismissed in a haughty and arrogant fashion? Oceangate said that Lockridge, who was not an engineer, had refused to accept safety approvals from Oceangate's engineering team, and that the company's evaluation of Titan hull was stronger than any kind of third-party evaluation Lockridge thought necessary. Is this an internal bias, using one's own engineers to confirm something that the company wanted to be confirmed? Oceangate sued Lockridge for allegedly breaching his confidentiality contract. Is this a nullification of a threat to control? And for making fraudulent statements. Lockridge countersued, stating that he had been wrongfully terminated as a whistleblower for bringing up concerns about Titan's ability to operate safely. The two parties settled a few months later. Later in 2018, the Marine Technology Society wrote a letter to Rush expressing unanimous concern regarding the development of Titan and the planned Titanic expedition, indicating that the current experimental approach could result in negative outcomes, from minor to catastrophic, that would have serious consequences for everyone in the industry. A signatory of the letter told the New York Times that Rush had called him after reading it to tell him that he believed industry standards were stifling innovation. Might this letter, viewed as a criticism by Stockton Rush, threaten his sense for control, resulting in a response to that threat to control whereby he called one of the signatories to the letter to perhaps nullify that threat to control by saying industry standards were stifling innovation? In March 2018, Rob McCallum, a leading deep-sea exploration specialist, emailed Rush to warn him he was potentially risking his client's safety and advised against the submersible's use for commercial purposes until it had been independently tested and classified. I implore you to take every care in your testing and sea trials and to be very, very conservative. Rush replied that he was tired of industry players who try to use a safety argument to stop innovation. We have heard the baseless cries of, "You are going to kill someone," way too often. I take this as a serious personal insult. Is it the case that McCallum's emails threatened the sense of control that Stockton Rush has, and therefore, as a response to that threat to control, he hoovers McCallum and does so in a dismissive and arrogant fashion, dismissing the cries of, "You're going to kill someone," something, of course, which did come about. Also, note that he refers to it as a serious personal insult, the way that criticisms of the project are viewed to be a criticism of Rush himself. Might this be that he sees individuals and those around him as an extension of himself? McCallum then sent Rush another email in which he wrote, "I think you are potentially placing yourself and your clients in a dangerous dynamic. In your race to Titanic, you are mirroring that famous catch cry, 'She is unsinkable.'" This prompted Oceangate's lawyers to threaten McCallum with legal action. McCallum is expressing an opinion. This seems to have been a threat to control, which resulted in Rush responding to nullify that threat to control by utilising lawyers. In 2022, the British actor and television presenter Ross Kemp, who had previously taken part in deep-sea dives for the television channel Sky History, had planned to mark the 110th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic by recording a documentary in which he would undertake a dive to the wreckage using Titan. The project was shelved after production company Atlantic Productions deemed the submersible to be unsafe and not fit for purpose. Was this an unnecessary response, or was it the case that they were correct and the vehicle was unsafe and not fit for purpose, which demonstrates the lackadaisical approach to safety that Stockton Rush has, thus underpinning a sense of entitlement and a lack of accountability?